Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to JFD Brokers Traders Tea Time with me, Daruson Chauskas. Today's the 16th of July 2018, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this Monday's afternoon session where we're going to have a look at a few instruments which I believe are quite interesting, forming quite interestingly right now. Let's put it that way. But before we do that, of course, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So the content of this webinar does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest and we can continue. Also, before we jump into the charts, quick reminder of our JFD Brokers research page, where you can go and have a look at different analysis that we do on a daily basis. We throw out different trading shoutouts, and of course we produce our daily morning analysis. So for the day, and well, in particularly for Monday, we do a weekly one. So yep, feel free to check us out, guys, and I think you can find something useful for yourselves. But for now, let's quickly have a look at the charts. So the first one I want to start off is the S&P 500. Now, S&P 500, if you're following this index, I mean, you probably can understand that we are now testing the March highs that we had here around the 2800. So we've managed to close, well, the index actually managed to close on Friday just a 1 point above the psychological 2800. Certainly at this point right now, looking at the cash market, I mean, we are probably gonna open up in the around the same area. Certainly keep an eye on that one, but at this point, this is the main region that we're going to be keeping an eye on, is the area here between the 2800 and the 2790. So for now, guys, stay sharp, be very careful. If we suddenly see like this one reversing back down and moving below the 2790, well, I mean, it's still, we are going to be very cautious here, because we could end up trading sideways here for a little bit around this area until the bears and the bulls kind of figure it out between themselves, and you know, and then they will decide who will take the driver's seat here. So I mean, if we do get a continuation to the upside here, if we do have if this move up here continues and we move above the 2800 again, so well, keep an eye on this 2836 mark, approximately there, or actually let's probably maybe round it up here towards the 2840, probably better level to watch. And now this has been marked here by the highs of the 31st of January this year, so very good potential level to watch, very potential area of resistance, of course. But if that doesn't hold, we do have a better one here, which is the 2875. Now this one has been the all-time highs that we saw here in January, around the 26th. So all-time highs, guys. I mean, we could end up moving towards those, but for that, of course, we would need to see a nice move here above this 2800 initially, and then yep, we would have to break the 2840 in order to kind of hit the all-time highs again, well, the previous all-time highs, let's put it that way. On the downside, let me probably put a 4-hour chart for this one. So on the downside, well, of course, if we do get a move below the 2790, that would be probably the first kind of bearish-ish signal for this one, and we could end up pushing towards this little level right here. Let me just quickly mark that one for you guys, and that's around the 2770 mark, so approximately there. So if we get a break here below, now this is where it could become a bit more interesting for the bears, and probably even more bears could start jumping in on this one and trying to push or let's say pull the index a little bit lower here. Certainly good levels to watch here on the bottom side are the 2742 mark, and below that we do have the round number of 2700. Now certainly before of course we start considering these levels, we need to see a nice move here below the 2770. So keep an eye on the 2770, guys, but of course at this point in time, I mean, we'll probably have to monitor the upside as well, just because just judging by this move here, this the strong move when we reversed here around the second of the beginning of July, since then we kind of started pushing higher. Certainly, like I said, yep, keep an eye on the 2800. I mean, this is where the price could eventually kind of trade for a while, maybe even actually today we won't see anything, and the price, like I said, is going to stay around this area. But nevertheless, like I said, if we suddenly get a push away from this 2800, then yep, keep an eye on the 2840. Let's have a look at one commodity that I really wanted to touch on. So this morning I was talking about WTI, but today, right now in this session, I'm going to talk about the Brent. So we are currently testing the upside support, this upside support line, this, or we could call it trend line, which has been running here since around mid-June 2017. So at this point in time, we stay very cautious, because I mean, certainly we could get a bounce here, but we also could get a break here below. Now the only thing is that probably wait and see how the day is going to close, and if the day is going to close somewhere around here, then probably, well, not probably, but all the action could come in tomorrow, because the next candle, the daily candle, could open up just bang on the line, and this is where it could become even more interesting, because we could start pushing lower. Certainly for us to kind of take probably a more of a bearish stand here, and kind of start seeing a trend reversal here, we would need to see not only a break below this upwards moving trend line, but also a nice break here below the 7250 mark, approximately here, which is sitting here around this highlighted area. Now this could be like a double confirmation here for this one to start moving lower, and we then start aiming for the 7125 area, approximately there. And if that doesn't hold, well, we could end up moving lower here, maybe even actually towards the 6695 area, which has been marked here by the lows that we saw here around April this year. So before we could hit that level, we do have the 200 EMA, which is kind of approaching this level here, this area between the 71 and 25 and the 66.95. This is where the price could eventually kind of stall for a little bit, and then maybe move lower again. So for now, certainly keep an eye on this line, keep an eye on this 7250 mark. Let's see if it wants to move below it or not. Certainly if this continues to kind of just get rejected here, and then we will see maybe a bit of a reversal back to the upside. Now certainly for us to kind of become more bullish on this one, we need to see a nice move either above the 75.85 or actually even better above the 76.45 for better confirmation. This way we could start aiming for the 79.15, which we saw here, that acted as a nice area of resistance three times once in the end of May, and then twice in June, in July, I do apologize. And then after, of course, if that doesn't hold, well, we could end up moving lower. But for now, let's sort it out with this level here, let's sort it out with this trend line, let's see what it wants to do with it. But like I said, at this point, probably stay very cautious. It's very tricky. I mean, it could go either way, but if eventually it either bounces and moves higher here towards the levels that I was just talking about, then it could become a nice trade to the upside. Or if it actually breaks these two lines, the upside support line and the this 7250 mark, if it starts breaking these and closes below these two, then this is not looking good for Brent. So let's quickly touch on a few pairs, and the first one I want to look at is the GBPJPY. It sits here the first in my list, and certainly we are kind of more bullish on this one, but let's say we have been bullish on this one, and I was talking about this one in my previous videos last week, and I was talking about this level, this 148 mark, which it broke nicely to the upside and continued to push higher. And this is where we end up now. We have ended up here at this trend line. We're testing it from underneath, and this trend line has been running here since around mid-April 2017. So it was in the past. You can see that it was a nice trend line here that was tested a few times, but then it got eventually broken here on in May time, but then actually moved back towards it, and then we retraced, and now we're testing that line again. So we can see that the importance of this line now, and certainly at this point be very careful. If we get a nice break here, and eventually maybe, let's say even today, if we get a nice close above this trend line, well, I mean, this could be looking quite interesting for the upside, and we could end up pushing higher, a little bit higher here, certainly meeting this level right here at around 150, the psychological 150 level, which is not far from this downside resistance line that has been running here since around the 2nd of February, and we could end up testing this area. Let me just quickly highlight that for you guys. This is probably going to be a quite important area if we have managed eventually to move above this long-term upwards moving trend line. So at this point, it is looking quite bullish still. It is currently, I believe it's retracing, just looking at the 4-hour chart, just slightly. Well, I mean, it was initially retracing. Now we can see this is another possible scenario that I've got highlighted here with my arrow, and we could maybe see a bit of a down move here to test this kind of short-term, very short-term upside support line. We could end up testing it from here, hitting the 148 mark, and then reversing back to the upside and testing the this long-term upwards moving trend line from underneath again. So basically, long story short, guys, we are stuck in here in this little range, this little area here, and we're waiting for a nice confirmation. So if we get a nice close above this upwards moving trend line on a daily candle, then we could expect this one probably moving a little bit higher again. But if it closes below this long-term upwards moving trend line, then, well, there is probably a possibility for this one to move a little bit higher, to get a bit of a correction, and then maybe push back up again. So keep an eye on this one, guys. It could play out as a nice trade. On the downside for this one, of course, you probably are you understood. If we get a nice break here below this short-term upside support line, well, we could start examining these lower levels again. So for now, keep an eye on this little area here. Aussie dollar, now this is another good one, and looking at the daily chart for this one, we can see that it's trying to push higher today here, and certainly the day has not finished yet, but nevertheless we are moving higher. We are trying to push higher. It met its support here at around the 0.74450 mark already today. Certainly it proves to be a quite important area of resistance. Slightly above that we do have some better levels, but let me put a 4-hour chart for this one. So you can also see that we are also trading above this upside support line, this very short-term upside support line. Excuse me, yep, we can see that it found its resistance here today at 0.7445, and now we're kind of retracing a little bit to the downside. So at this point, guys, be very careful. Certainly this is the area where you probably should avoid taking any positions, because eventually, I mean, if you want to go, if you believe that this is going to break, then why not to enter actually when the break happens, and then kind of start aiming for higher levels, because this could be a nice confirmation for the upside if we do get a nice break and a close above this 0.7445 mark. But at this point, I mean, it has also an equal chance of moving back down here and testing this short-term upside support line, from which then it could probably maybe bounce off and move higher again. So at this point, guys, probably the recommendation here could be just to observe this one, keep an eye on these levels. They are very quite important levels, and if we do get a reversal back to the upside here, this is where it could become interesting again, and we could start monitoring the break of the 0.7445, where we could aim for the highs that we had here around the 9th of July, and that's around the 0.74850 approximately there, something like that. So, and of course, you probably got the idea. If we get a break here, well, we could then move a little bit higher, but for now, keep an eye on the 0.7445. Let's see what he wants to do with that. And the last pair that I really wanted to touch on, guys, is the NZDUSD. And quickly putting a daily chart on this one, we can see that we can see that we're stuck here at around this level here, this area of resistance at around 0.6785 mark. Certainly keeping a close eye on this pair tonight, or wherever you are, probably this morning. Well, let's say like that, the early Asian morning, we do have the New Zealand CPIs coming out, so we could potentially see a nice move here in this pair. Certainly, if we get a good positive news from New Zealand, then we could see a break of this 0.6785 and a push higher here towards the 0.6835 or even actually 6850, marked by the highs that we had here around the 9th of July. Certainly, at this point, like I said, keep a close eye on this one, but eventually this could play out as a nice trade, where you could eventually position yourself for something like this. Let me just kind of adjust this slightly. This is just an idea, guys. Certainly, I cannot like I need to kind of point out the importance of having your stop loss as well in here. Otherwise, this is not worth it to risk it. So a potential trade idea could be something like this, where you could initially enter a position here slightly above this 0.6785 mark, aim for the 0.68350 initially, but have your stop loss somewhere around these lows, around the lows that we had here actually this morning, and that's around 0.6755 mark, approximately there. So very good areas to watch here, guys. Certainly, if you'll see that this wants to continue pushing higher above the 0.6835, we do have the 6850 mark, which could be another good potential target for your take profit. So something like this, guys, could eventually work out, but like I said, always, of course, you'll be the judge. You do what's best for you, and but always, like I said, always have your stop losses in place. Okay, guys, I'll have to wrap it up here. Thank you very much for watching and listening. I hope you found it useful, and if you do want to join me tomorrow morning at my Traders Espresso at 6 o'clock GMT time, 7 o'clock British Summer Time. But for now, thank you very much, and bye-bye.